Hello, today I want to talk to you about the real value of setting quarterly goals. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons that you should set these goals on a quarterly basis. There used to be thinking in personal development, the advice would be set a 5-year goal, a 3-year goal, or not just a goal, but a plan. What's your 5-year plan? And then just work backwards all the way to getting to the current year, quarterly, and then monthly and weekly and so forth. Now that's all well and good if you want to do it that way. But I would say that I'm guessing that most of us are not built that way. I know that I tried to do that many times, and I've always been a goal setter and try to plan out what I'm going to do in the various areas of my life. And sometimes I met them and sometimes I didn't, but the idea is that at least you do the thinking. So it's perfectly fine to think ahead really long term, like 5 years, or some people have you do an exercise where you're going to think about what do you want to be read at your memorial, your funeral, to have people think about you. Like that's a way to sort of work backward to the present to see what you want your life to be about. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is a very practical month to month or quarter to quarter kind of plan. Now, the idea is that to begin with, you would have a long-term idea of the direction you want to go. And of course, if you don't know, then that's something to work on and get clear on, like the general direction that you want to go. But what I'm talking about is if you have kind of an idea of where you want to go, or a pretty good idea, but you don't know how to get there, then this is exactly where it comes in, that setting these quarterly goals are very powerful. Number 1 reason why it's so powerful to do these quarterly plans or quarterly goals. And you don't have to do it right on the monthly quarter, but you can. And that's really what I'm going to talk about. And that is, number 1 is that each quarter you have an opportunity to start with a totally clean slate. I know that sometimes when I set goals, I'll plan something out and then at some point it's like time has just flown by. I haven't been focused and now I am at a new point and I'm feeling badly about what I didn't do. Or in other cases, I've been just going like crazy and things are going well and I'm achieving a lot, but yet I also don't take time to celebrate. By having a quarterly plan, setting your quarterly goals on what you want to achieve in an area of your life or your business that's important to you, then at the end of that quarter, you can actually celebrate what worked, and then you can sort of rethink what didn't work or what you didn't achieve, and then how to improve on that for the next quarter. The point is that you start with a clean slate and you make sure you celebrate or you just realign in terms of what you're going to do for the next quarter. That's number 1. Number 2, when you set quarterly goals, then it's important to set some kind of measurable result with it, like something that you can say, yes, I did it, or no, I didn't. That's just part of any kind of goal setting, that you want to have a specific and measurable result so you actually know if you did it or you didn't do it. Now, it's not just, that's my dog shaking in the background. Hi, Bubbles. So it's not just that you want to make sure that you know if you did or didn't achieve it, but when you get real specific about what it is that you want to achieve, then you can actually be laser focused because you say, I want to meet a certain revenue goal, then you know exactly what you have to achieve. And if you're not on track with it, then you know you've got to make more sales calls or whatever it is. And then the same thing, if you want to book a role, if you're an actor, or if you want to write a book, like whatever it is, when you have to come up with something that's specific and measurable, then you've got to think that through. So when you set, my dog is just so funny, she's distracting me in the background. When you're going to set a quarterly goal and you've got to come up with something specific and measurable, then you've got to think through exactly what am I going to focus on to achieve this? What is the metric? What are the things that I'm actually going to measure to get there? And it helps you actually clarify your goal, and it helps you clarify what is it that I'm going to do to actually get there. So that's another reason it's so powerful that you're going to think it through, and by coming up with this specific measurable result, it gives you more access to exactly what you need to do to get there. The third reason it's so powerful to set quarterly goals is that once you achieve them, you really have the experience of success. So many times when people are going along, when all of us, including myself, we're going along, even when we hit a milestone and we achieve something, we're already deep into the next thing, so we don't even take that time to really celebrate and say, wow, I did it. I said what I would do, and then I achieved it. A lot of times we don't do that. We just move along, and then we go from one thing to the next. We don't notice if we're not keeping up or if we're overachieving. Like, we just don't notice. By setting the quarterly goal with a measurable outcome, then you're actually going to have that experience of being successful and creating your life, creating your business, whatever it is that you're doing. You actually have that experience of achievement, and you can take a breath. I think sometimes things move so fast in our lives, and just how things are now, from everything like social media to like just all the things that we can do. We have so many things that can be fun to do and stimulating, for better or for worse. There's so much out there that can be distracting, that by doing this, then we get focused, and then we actually have that experience of, okay, I did enough for that quarter, I achieved my goal. Okay, so it's the experience of really creating your life and having that success. And it's very fulfilling when you set out to do something and boom, you do it. So that's number 3. And now to number 4. Number 4, this kind of ties back to what I was saying about setting a 5-year or 3-year plan or 1-year plan. Again, if you've got a big business, you've got to think ahead. So this is not about that. I'm talking about most small businesses or solopreneurs, who are people like myself who work on their own but then employ assistants or have virtual assistants, or if you're an artist. And that is that each quarter you can make adjustments for where you are or where you want to go. So let's say that you're an actor and you wanted to get an agent. But let's say early on in the quarter you get an agent, and then you go on and book something. Or maybe, let's say you want to increase your sales in your business. And in that first quarter, you come out with some kind of product or something that takes you in a different direction because people responded so well to some product you created or some job that you got, that all of a sudden you have more abundance than you expected. Or you find out you didn't really like that kind of thing, and so you want to change directions. The point is that it really lets you pivot quickly. Number 4, let's say that you have a big project that you want to do. It could even be like making a film, or it could be starting a new kind of business, whatever it is. That's not going to get done in 1 quarter. If you have a small film, it could get done, but chances are you're not going to start on today and 90 days later be all done with it. It's possible, but just generally speaking. By setting quarterly goals, you can actually have a much bigger goal that you're working toward, and you can chip away at it each quarter. You're not going to have to wait until you get to the very end to have your experience of success. You actually can break it down. You can clarify your thinking so that if there's this big project that's going to take a year or 2 years, or you don't even know, well, this quarter you can focus on, this is the thing that I want to achieve this quarter. And then at the end of that quarter, you reach it or you don't, you can immediately make adjustments for the next quarter. So instead of planning, here's a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan or whatever, instead of planning that out and it just not going anywhere in the sense of you're totally off track by the end of that first quarter. No, it's like you kind of can have that bigger vision out there, but at the end of a quarter, you want to know that you've at least taken these steps toward that. And if you need to, you can adjust. Maybe you took too big of a bite or too big of a project on that you wanted to accomplish in that quarter, or maybe you found out that's not really something you want to do. So by setting the quarterly goal, you get super focused on what that thing is, what that project is, and then you can reevaluate at the end of it, celebrate if you want to celebrate, and really even if you don't reach it, you can celebrate as long as you stay focused on the project. It's fine if you don't reach it. I mean, of course you're going to try to, but even if you don't, then you want to take that time to reassess. But by setting these quarterly goals, it gives you a way to really stay on track with a bigger project, and it makes it more realistic and more achievable because you're breaking it down I could say bite-sized, but this is more like it's breaking it down into one meal instead of having it be a whole menu of items that you're going to do. It's like you're breaking it down where you can enjoy and focus on that one thing for that quarter as you move toward the direction of some much bigger goal. And now to number 5. And this might be the most critical one. By setting quarterly goals, it is going to help you laser focus. I know for myself that I have so many goals that I want to achieve in a bunch of different areas. I know that that's been a drawback in terms of what I accomplish because I've been too distracted in different places. But I have learned when you focus on a given project and you really put most of your resources into that, because we can't always just put all of our resources and focus into one thing. But if you have one main focus, one main project that you want to achieve for that quarter, you're going to be much more likely to achieve it. And it's a much better strategy for accomplishment than to do a little bit on this one, a little bit on that one, and to work like that. For an actor, instead of just saying, I want some kind of job, maybe you focus in on television casting directors and getting cast in a television show, or instead of just picking something like a film, instead of just like anything, you actually focus on what it is that you want to accomplish, and you put all of your focus toward that one project over the course of the quarter, and you are much more likely to achieve it. Focus is a huge issue for many of us, especially for entrepreneurs and creative people like myself. I'm a creative in the sense of creative in business. I always have so many ideas and so many things I want to do that it's distracting. And I know there are many other people like that too. So if you're like that, this is one of the key things that you and I can do, is to choose a project to focus on for a given quarter and put all the other things mostly to the side. I mean, we still have our responsibilities that we have to follow through on and carry out, but it's to have something be the primary focus. And when we do that, it makes a huge, incredible difference. If you want to really study more about this, there's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, and he goes into depth on the power of focusing on one thing. There's this whole conversation about multitasking, and they say women are better at multitasking than men. Well, maybe so. But there's just one caveat that I want to give you about multitasking. And that is, if you're trying to do something that requires thought, that actually requires you thinking, anything other than a very rote task, anything other than that, you are not going to be multitasking. You're not going to be doing that task as well. Sometimes I listen to motivational tapes while I'm doing motivational tapes. Hey, welcome back from the 70s. But, I'll be listening to some kind of motivational YouTube videos or whatever while I'm doing the dishes. And that's fine, and it's good, positive things going into my brain. But if there is something that I really need to learn and I want to remember, I need to stop and think about it. Because if it's going to stick in my mind, then I need to actually be conscious and present to that thing and thinking about it, not just sort of letting it flow along. So my point is that if you want to focus, if you're going to focus on something, if there's something you're trying to learn or trying to achieve, if you have to engage your mind, then you cannot be multitasking or you're not going to get it. This is the same concept that Gary Keller talks about. I don't know if he says it exactly that way, but the point is that when you focus your mind on something, you're going to be much more powerful and achieve much more as a whole, whether it's right in one moment or if it's over a period of time. If you focus on one thing, that's the one thing I want to accomplish, you're going to be way more productive and it's going to be way more powerful than if you're torn in a bunch of different directions. And I know that is very true because I've lived it way too much. So focus on one thing. Again, those are the 5 points, the 5 reasons that setting quarterly goals are so powerful. And again, that last one I said, it's about focus, but the idea is that you can focus on one thing for a quarter, and then you can focus on something else the next quarter. So there's power in that. I hope that this has given you some tips on actually helping you focus overall, and that you see the value of the quarterly projects. And in fact, I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about my coaching program, BigJuicyProject.com, and it's a 90-day coaching program. And I'll put a link in, put it right here on the video, as well as somewhere around the video that you can check it out. All right, think about what big juicy project would you like to achieve in the upcoming quarter?